Welcome to Module 10, Lesson 2 on Civil Rights Requirements in the CACFP. We will cover the remaining topics discussed in Chapter 8. In order to determine that organizations are in compliance with civil rights requirements, reviews must be conducted both by the state agency and through self-monitoring. The state agency will conduct compliance reviews prior to approving new organizations for CACFP participation as part of the annual renewal process and during on-site compliance reviews. Organizations must review their own CACFP operations at each site to evaluate civil rights compliance one or more times per year. The site review forms provided in the manual and in download forms include the required civil rights questions needed to assess compliance. If noncompliance is identified on a review, the site monitor must document them on the review form and establish a written corrective action plan. On the next review, the site monitor must list any required changes from the previous review and describe activities that were completed to document the corrective actions were addressed. Noncompliance is a factual finding that any civil rights requirement as provided by law, regulation, policy, instruction, or guidance is not being adhered to. If noncompliance is identified on a state agency review, corrective action must be made to achieve voluntary compliance within 60 days. If voluntary compliance is not achieved, the USDA Regional Office will be notified. We will discuss 3 examples of noncompliance and resolutions for each. The first example is not offering to provide at least one iron-fortified infant formula to parents of infants or requiring parents to provide infant food and formula. This example would be noncompliance based on age. Resolution would be to modify the parent handbook by including a policy informing parents that the center will provide at least one iron-fortified infant formula. The policy would also state, parents are not required, but may provide infant foods if they wish. Any food provided by parents used to fulfill meal pattern requirements must be a reimbursable food. The center will offer to provide a list of reimbursable infant foods to the parent upon request. Another step in the resolution process would be for the center to list the formula it will offer on the state agency CACFP enrollment form before it is copied and distributed to parents of infants. The second example of noncompliance is providing larger portions to boys. This would be an example of noncompliance based on sex. An example of resolution is for the director to retrain the cook and staff members who supervise meals on civil rights regulations, discussing the importance of providing children in the same age group the same food in the same amounts as required by the meal pattern. The director would then follow up by supervising staff during meal service to ensure portion sizes for all food components are consistent according to the meal pattern requirements for each age group. The third example of noncompliance is serving breakfast in sponsored suburban centers, but not at centers located in areas with a high proportion of minorities. This is an example of noncompliance based on 3 protected classes: race, color, and national origin. Resolution could be to start serving breakfasts at all sites. The same meals are served at all sites unless modifications are needed for special diets or to avoid choking for younger children. USDA encourages the resolution of complaints at the lowest possible level and as quickly as possible. Complaints should be resolved using principles of alternative dispute resolution, or ADR. ADR includes the use of a neutral third party who acts as a facilitator to informally resolve the complaints of discrimination. The facilitator works with the parties to help them develop a mutually agreeable resolution to the issue. Complaints of discrimination based on USDA protected classes must be filed within 180 days of the incident. They may be written or verbal and may be anonymous. Allegations of discrimination based on state protected classes may also be written or verbal. They must be filed within 300 days of the event and may not be anonymous. If an agency receives a complaint of discrimination, provide the non-discrimination statement and procedures for filing a complaint to the person alleging discrimination. Use the appropriate complaint form to collect information. Links to the USDA and Iowa complaint forms can be found in Chapter 8. Complaints are not to be judged as serious or not serious, minor or non-minor. All complaints are to be handled in the same manner. Practicing good customer service should also help reduce or eliminate complaints of discrimination. This means treating all participants in the same manner and with courtesy and respect. For example, all participants in the same age group are served the same planned menu items in the same amounts. All participants are included in meals, snacks, activities, and discussions. Standards of behavior are not based on membership in a protected class, and each person receives positive comments as well as constructive education regarding mealtime, nutrition, manners, etc. Any photographs, drawings, or graphic depictions of participants should convey the concept of equal access. For example, a picture that only includes white children would not communicate the concept of equal access for people of color. Including images of individuals with disabilities is another example to depict inclusion. Local agencies are responsible for annually training frontline staff who interact with CACFP applicants or participants and their supervisors. The training must include the following topics: the collection and use of civil rights data, effective public notification systems, complaint procedures, compliance review techniques, resolution of noncompliance, requirements for reasonable accommodation of persons with disabilities, requirements for language assistance, conflict resolution, and customer service. A staff training handout is available in Chapter 8. This online module may also be used for staff training. Like all CACFP training, civil rights training must be documented following the requirements provided in Chapter 7 of the CACFP Administrative Manual and discussed in Module 9. This concludes the lesson on civil rights. If you have questions, contact the state agency or your area consultant. Contact information can be found in the front of the CACFP Administrative Manual.